I think I want to marry you. Just say I do.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Behind the Veil, a show that provides insight into the world of weddings and events. I'm your host, Keith Willard. Welcome back to the show. Today, we're going to be talking about vows. Because let's face it, when we get up there to have our one moment, and me personally, somebody that is used to being in front of people, when I got married, I felt like a complete idiot standing up there. And so the idea of hiring somebody to write your vows is I wish I had thought of it back then. God, it's such a great idea. So our guest today is Brian Franklin. He is the co-founder of Vows and Speeches. Story is really interesting, but before I bring him on, let me bring on my co-host Marcy Gutenberg with an affair to remember by Marcy. Hi, Marcy.
Hello. Hi.
So this is a thing, having somebody write your vows.
Yes.
We're going to talk about this, but it could come across as a little impersonal. The idea of like, oh my God, I'm gonna have somebody else write my vows, but there's so much more that goes into it.
Right. And more couples are leaning towards doing personalized vows.
Right. And I think that it just makes sense. We spend so much money on dresses and decorations and florists and musicians, all who do a great job, and we pay them for their expertise. Why not this?
Why not?
Right. All right. Well, Let's bring Brian on. Brian, welcome to the show.
Hello, Brian.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I feel like I should have you both as part of our sales team.
I like that, right? Well, because that's the thing, is that when you think about, okay, why not? Why not have somebody help you write your vows? And I think that's what I really wanted to get to. Why not have somebody help you, not write them for you, but help you say the things that you really want to say?
Yeah, personalization. Marcy hit it. Personalization is the thing here, and we're not writing the vows from scratch. We're starting with a very in-depth interview, usually 45 minutes to an hour. It's a lot of fun, and then that gets boiled down to 1 to 2 minutes of vows, and ultimately, it's your words or something that you've conveyed to us. We'll hopefully put it in a more artful and funny way than you could, but that's why you're hiring us, is to help you articulate it. And one of the things that I've found is that even people that are great writers struggle in these moments, because now you're trying to summarize your feelings about someone. It's too big for most people to get around very easily, and so and you tend to overthink it. So we get a lot of panic buyers, people that think that they have it, and then 3 days before their wedding, they're like, I don't know what to say, or I don't know how to organize my thoughts. And it's not just the vows, of course. We do ceremonies and wedding speeches, but I think whether you're doing the vows or a personalized ceremony or both, having it personalized gives people in the audience something new and different that they may not have heard before. They don't necessarily know you as a couple. They don't necessarily know your story or what you love about each other. I would struggle to articulate what my friends love about their husbands or wives. I don't know. I can guess, but they haven't told me. And if I get a generic ceremony, then I've lost that opportunity to learn. And so what we found is that when you do that, people lean in, and they're not just sitting there waiting in the hot sun for cocktail hour. They're more interested in what's happening.
Well, go ahead, Marcy. You were about to say.
Yeah. If you were a couple, and let's say that they wanted to figure out, like, what is the key element that people really need to hone in on, because it's an overwhelming and daunting task that, what's the first point that they should be sitting down and thinking about before they even reach out to somebody like you?
Yeah.
Well, I think they want to think about what kind of tone they want for their wedding. If they want something extremely traditional and the way that they've seen it before, then you're probably going to hire an officiant that's going to do something very straightforward. And I think with us, what you're going to get is something that captures the nature of your relationship and captures the personality of both of the couple that's involved. And whether I'm doing it behind the scenes confidentially for one of the couple, and that happens sometimes, it's like, well, I don't want my wife to know, or my husband to know that I'm getting help, or I'm doing it for both of them. What what they're looking for is help articulating what they feel already and what they know in their hearts, and help finding those stories and those little nuggets that make them. And once we go through the questioning, it's not, I can't even give somebody a questionnaire in writing, because sometimes you'll just hear something and you'll go, oh wait, tell me more about that. That's something that's important. That's something good. And so they don't really have to think about it too much ahead of time. They just have to have an idea of how they want this to feel. And and then that's all. And then we'll take it from there, and we'll work with them until they're happy.
Well, and
So
that's
maybe
the thing.
something sentimental or something more, as you said, funny. It could be along those various elements of what they're comfortable with.
Most couples want some level of humor. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
No.
Most couples want some level of humor.
Yeah. But that's the thing, is that when you're standing up there, you don't know what's funny. And that's one of the things, is that when you're a wedding planner and you're listening to people and they're struggling to write their vows, they get into their own headspace about, and they don't really expand it so that they include other people. They tend to go, you remember that time we were at that place and you and I met and we fell in love, and everybody's going, what place? Where? What are they talking about?
Right.
I'm lost.
Right.
So getting to see it from a third person point of view, I think is important.
Yeah. And some of it's surprising. There was one, I remember one of our earlier clients, many of them have met online through an app or through a website. And I often, when that's the case, I often ask them, like, what do you remember about that profile? Like, what caught your eye? What was the thing that drove you to either respond or to reach out? And I remember one, he had a picture where he was trying to stuff his bike into this smart car, and he had a daisy in his hair. And this, this person was an attorney. And I knew that that's a visual that all his friends and family are going to chuckle at. It doesn't have to be a punchline. It's just something that they know this person. It's just a funny visual for that person. And so
it's endearing. Endearing.
Yeah.
I mean, it shows a little of the humanity behind the people that are getting married. I mean, you want to feel like they're human beings just like you, and that they have those awkward moments just like you. And that love is messy. And many times it's a little messy.
And most people as a couple laugh at each other, right? If you're in a couple, you're laughing at each other. It's not, I don't know anybody that doesn't laugh at each other that's a couple anymore, right? And so those things aren't just funny to the other person. They're sometimes funny to everybody. And so it's not it doesn't turn into a roast, because you don't ever want to make people feel attacked or uncomfortable. But there are things that are fun to tease about a little bit and poke fun a little bit, but you always balance it out with the sweetness and the stuff that they love and that sort of thing. Yeah.
So let's go back to the beginning. How did this even come about? I mean, you're a communication marketing consultant for over 25 years. You're working with politicians, etc. And then all of a sudden you're like, you know what? I want to write wedding vows. Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's a bit of a wacky story. I had worked in politics for many years, almost 2 decades. We had some exciting times, but as many people would understand, politics sucks these days. It's not fun. It's not what it used to be. And I had been trying for a number of years to find something to do that was different. I think I was just getting burnt out on it, and I tried a couple of different types of businesses that I thought would be interesting to me, and they didn't work out. But I was still looking around, and I just knew I had to make a change. So you start thinking about what your skill sets are, and speech writing was something I had done a lot of. I had performed a couple of ceremonies for friends and family. I had helped some people with their wedding speeches, and then I started this podcast of my own, where I started interviewing some of the more interesting people that I happen to know, some musicians and different figures. And one of them was a guy named John Max, who was a writer for Tonight Show, and he was a ghost writer for other comedians and a speechwriter. And and I started looking at that and thinking about, is this something I can do? And I started looking at weddings because that's something I had done. And I went on Clubhouse, and this was, I guess this would have been the beginning of
Clubhouse.
of 2021. Yeah.
Yes.
And as
I
many
remember
wedding
that.
professionals, so as many wedding professionals remember, towards the in the middle of the pandemic, it became a place for people that couldn't do weddings to gather and talk about their profession. And so a lot of people, and it was just starting to relax. This was like maybe April or March of 2021. And I got up in one of the rooms and I asked the question, what do you guys think about someone assisting with wedding speeches? And they were like, yes. And immediately a couple of people said to add ceremony scripts for new officiants and custom vows. And while they were talking, a light went on in my head, and I went on GoDaddy, and other people were talking, and I went on GoDaddy, and I saw Vowels Speeches was available, and I grabbed that, and I threw together a Squarespace site. I had a designer on staff on the political side of things, and they did a logo in 2 hours, and I threw together a website, and I put up some Google ads, and I got a client the next day.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, there's something here, there's something going on. It took about 3 or 4 months, and I'm still working politics at this point. And it took about 3 or 4 months of experimenting to realize that people didn't really know what to make of it. It was something so new to most people. And there had been a few people out there that are wedding speech writers or vow writers that had tried this or are trying this, but it didn't seem like they were big businesses. I think they had gotten their, either filled up their dance card, or they had kept it to like a one-person thing. And I was looking at it more like I wanted to create a niche and a larger business out of it. And so, so we started talking to wedding planners, and we realized most of them have never heard of this before. I mean, 1 out of 300 or so I've dealt with anybody like this. And so, so we just started really promoting ourselves and getting out there. And I remember there was this one inflection point where my wife, Nicole, and I, my wife is a co-founder in the business, and she's from politics as well. And she was involved in the political side too. And so we went to Wedding MBA, and we walked around, and we started talking to people. And we met with planner after planner. We just sat there. We basically sat there at the Renaissance bar, right, and just meeting people, and started telling them what we were doing. And we got such a reaction that as we walked out of there, Nicole said, "You've had a lot of cockamamie ideas before, but this isn't one of them." And I said, okay, well, let's talk. We went to sushi, and we said, let's talk about what this means. What is it? What are we willing to give up or take a chance at to do this? How much are we willing to invest in this? And we were both bullish about it. And thank God for that, because we've been off to the races ever since.
It's crazy to think about this. I mean, we have people that help us with everything else when it comes to a wedding. I don't know why the vows portion of it seems, and I can tell you from a client perspective, from a couple perspective, they're going to be like, oh, will it sound like me? And I think that you answer that question. It's like, we're going to interview you. We're going to talk to you. We're going to put your words onto paper and make it so that it feels like it's you speaking. Correct?
And that's where I think absolutely. And that's where I think a background in politics has helped us, because when you're working with, I've worked on 100 or so campaigns, we dealt with all types of different voices and politicians and people that are very comfortable public speakers to people that are horribly uncomfortable. And when you deal with enough of those, you realize you have to write in their voice. You have to speak as if you are them. And sometimes you are ghostwriting. And so I think that skill helped us a lot to try and figure out how to warm the couples into this. But the other side of it is simply, once they understand the process, they see it, and we're going to revise it until you're happy. I mean, we're going to keep going until you're happy. And what we're doing is we're taking the anxiety away. We're making sure you're not going to embarrass yourself. You're going to get up there. If you've got any kind of public speaking and anxiety, then working with someone's going to help you feel better about getting up there. And I'm someone that needs practice. I'm someone that doesn't speak extemporaneously as comfortably as I'd like to. You know, I have verbal tics. I go, I do all the stuff that, and I do all of the stuff you're not supposed to do, right? But it takes practice, and it takes warm up and some guidance to get it right. So,
well, and I want to add here, because we've spoke almost exclusively about vows, but it's vows and speeches, and so I think that's another important piece here, because if you're a dad or a best man or a maid of honor, I mean, one of the number one things that stresses people out is the fact that they're not used to getting in front of people, and they probably don't know half the people at the wedding. And so now they're getting in front of strangers. Whoa, okay, stress. And so what do? You start knocking back drinks. Blah, blah, blah. I need a little encouragement, little liquid encouragement. Before you know it, you got a little slurring going on. A little lubricant in there. Your voice sounds like this, and So I feel like that's an important piece here too, because then you provide confidence to those that are speaking in front of other people.
Nothing will kill a wedding. Nothing will kill a wedding. I don't care what your budget is. Okay. Nothing will kill a wedding faster than the wedding speech section going wrong. Okay.
My God.
It can go wrong.
My favorite.
And it can go wrong in so many different ways. I collect stories from wedding planners across the country, and I've got gobs of them now. But the main mistake that people,
unique ones.
I'd love to hear them. Yeah. But the main mistake that people make, the number one mistake that people make, is they go on too long. And they go on too long in part because they are either not, they don't practice and time it, right? They don't know what 2 minutes looks or 3 minutes looks like on a page. And they'll come with 3 pages of material thinking, it's 3 minutes. Three pages at 12-point fonts, like 7 or 8 minutes if you're a fast talker. And so now you've got 3 or 4 people doing it, and then they're overtime, and now your food's cold, and now your DJ is leaving early, or your photographer has to leave early, and you only get 20 minutes of dance time because your dad went on for 45 minutes. So that's the main thing that we're able to solve, especially if we're doing all 4 speeches. We can make sure all of them are on time. But then you have the people that just say the most incredibly dumb things,
embarrassing things. I mean, I'm over here. If you're listening to the podcast, you're not seeing me flapping my arms in agreement, because I was looking like a big old chicken over here. I'm like, yes. But then, I mean, that is the case. I mean, I tell people all the time, I'm like, look, sit in your kitchen, turn a kitchen timer for 3 minutes, and sit there. Don't look at your phone. Don't listen to TV. Quiet. And you all of a sudden realize that 3 minutes is a really long time. I mean, whoa!
And 3 minutes, 3 to 4 minutes is it goes by quickly if you've got the right material and it's well structured.
Right.
But a poor 3 minute or 4 minute speech, I mean, you're going to have people in the audience, and you have this event that's been like this. It's building, everything's going great, and then you get to and people sit there and I've got a fair touch of ADD, and that's part of the motivation here, because I've been to too many weddings where I'm just like, oh, come on. But especially as a speechwriter, you're just like, please.
Right.
But people idealize their own wedding, right? And if you're a bride or a groom out there and you're listening to this, you're probably not thinking about how poorly they're going to do. You're thinking, they're going to put the time in. It's going to be this great moment. You're not thinking, hey, my dad's got 5 bullet points. Each one of them's 20 minutes long, and it's going to be awful. But if you ask them ahead of time who's going to be the problem, they will tell you.
Yeah.
They will tell you.
100%. I've had best men that the groom is like, I really do not want him speaking. I love him. yes, he saved my life once, but he's gonna really get up
Yeah.
there and screw it up. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, well, and as wedding planners, we've taken it upon ourselves to help them, but I'm not a speechwriter. I've got too many other things to worry about. I mean, I've even had a groom like vomit on the dance floor because he was so nervous. And I mean, that was the best speech ever. I mean, I have to tell you, I mean, I enjoyed the hell out of it, but 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 that's the thing is that, and so my question for you is, not only should they hire you, but what goes into a good speech? Like if you were able to say to somebody, it's like, these are the key elements to providing a good speech. I mean, obviously they need to hire you, but if we could nail it down to a formula, is there such a thing, or is it totally unique for each individual?
I think it's not so much a formula as much as you have to look at it like, so I was in my past life, I was a musician, and I would, we play gigs and whatnot. I was in bands, and I kind of look at these things almost like a set list, where, if you go and you look at, if you go to a concert, even if you go to a Metallica concert, right, there's going to be a slow song, right? There's going to be, Nothing Else Matters, or something like that, right? You go, maybe not AC/DC, but almost everybody else. If you go see a band, you're going to have highs and lows, and they're structured that way. And I think when I look at the speeches, I think of them almost like a set list, where you don't want to have the whole thing be humor. You don't want it to be the whole thing to be overly overwrought with sweetness and love, and you want there to be something that breaks it up and has dynamics, just like as if you were speaking. You don't want to just be monotone. You want to have ups and downs. And so
I like that.
And so so I look at it more from, okay, where are the dynamics here? Where, what am I leading to? What's the good story? Is there an anchor? Right. At the end, you'd like to do vows of some kind or another. You want to wrap it into a bow. But even with those, you want to perhaps call back to a joke, or there might be something in there to break up the thing, so that it's not all love and cheesiness, and I love love. Don't get me wrong, but there's got to, romantic comedies are the best because there's comedy in them.
I'm glad that you're not a jaded divorced person doing this. I mean, I know. I mean, there could be that part. It's like, I'm gonna screw people's wedding up.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, I'm lucky enough that where my second marriage is perfect, and I love it. But even, I mean, I think it would, if I was having a bad week, it would be difficult. But that's what the creative writing part of it is for. I mean, I've got a job to do. I'm going to make it happen.
All right. But, so what is the worst thing somebody could do for a speech then? If there's not really a formula for success, like, what's the worst?
Well, I think the formula for success, by the way, I think I left one piece out, which is that you want to make sure that you're paying tribute to both of the couple. And even if you don't know them very well, you can talk to how you feel about seeing them together, right? How you felt at the wedding when you saw them getting, if you don't even know them or one of them, how did you feel when you saw them getting married, right? How did you feel when you heard your friend call you and say, hey, I've met somebody and they're wonderful, right? How did you feel for them? And what
if they're not nice though? What if you hate them? What if they're like the worst human being?
This is not. Yeah, but this is not couples. This is not like a polyamorous couples therapy. This is
right.
This is your gift. This is your gift to the couple. They're asking you to be up there, either as the father of the bride, the mother of the bride, whatever, or the best man or maid of honor. You're there to pay tribute to them, right? And your relationship with one or both of them. And it is not the time to air grievances. Okay, it's not it's not Festivus. Okay, this is a time to there are no feats of strength here. We're going to talk about them in a way that's going to elevate the wedding and not detract from it. And that's where you can fail. The flip side of it, what the question you asked is, where can you go wrong? By leaving somebody out, by saying something that will hit a nerve. You know, if this is not you're not your moment to poke the bear here, or to reiterate something that you know bothers them. This is not absolutely never a time to talk about previous relationships. You know, even if it's to say, like, some people want to say, well, you know, you're so much better than, you know, Mary was, right? Don't bring up Mary at the wedding, right? No, we're not going to do that. We don't need to, right? Like, I mean, that happens, right? And it's like, well, I like them so much better than the last one. No, we're good.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
I can't even believe that. I mean, I've actually heard people say that, and then you just want to die.
And you want to die,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh God! I mean, I had it so bad that I had parents that stood in front of the bride and groom with their butt facing the bride and groom, and it was so bad that the couple left. They left the wedding because they were so embarrassed by what their father. And both of the parents were equally horrific, which was lovely. Actually, that ended up getting a cheer at the end, because it was like, who could be worse about speaking? But I mean, that's the kind of stuff we're talking about. And so guess what people are going to remember? They're not going to remember the dancing or the food, or they're going to remember how much that speech was, you know.
They're going to remember how racist your dad was in that speech, or you know, or the fact that he went on for 45 minutes. By the way, that's a luxury wedding planner, right? Told me that they had a father of the bride went on for 45 minutes, right? Yep. It gets worse from there, but a best man that seated the groomsmen and said, "Have your keys ready," and then said, "Hey, raise your jingle your keys in the air if you've slept with the bride." Right? And so the groomsmen, you know, waved their keys.
Oh my God!
Like, I mean,
it goes
on. There was another one. Thankfully, the wedding planner intervened beforehand. Actually, it was an intern for the wedding planner intervened, but the best man was about to get up and say and read imaginary love letters from the groom's exes to the groom, right? You know, so these are the things that happen at expensive weddings, right? So let's, you know, so some of it, but let's just not. I think more commonly, they're just boring. They're just boring. That's
the bad part, is that they're boring, so boring that you're sitting there and you're like, okay, I'm awake. No. Okay, I'm awake.
Yeah.
And there are different cultures that do have like more of a roast. Like, I had a client that the couple, that his groomsmen wanted to do a toast, what I thought was a toast. And I would have thought that he had a conversation beforehand to say, you know, only a couple of minutes. And like, I think it was like 20, 30 minutes in, I'm having to get the DJ to, you know, get the music going so that we can move it along so we can serve dinner, because otherwise it was getting cold, you know, in the hot box. But, you know, I mean, it's just, you know, what would you suggest to couples? How much time should they be telling the person that is making a toast, you know, how much time they should have?
Is it 4 minutes?
The speeches we do are typically 3 to 4 minutes. And
love it.
And I think that is that's a perfect amount of time to be able to hit the points about your relationship with someone, hit the points about what you love about them, what you love about them as a couple. The first time I met that, you know, if they do know the couple, and most of the time they do, you know, the first time I met Jane, oh wow, that, you know, I was like, thank God she's here for Matt, you know, you know, things like that. So you can get through that pretty quickly, 3 to 4 minutes. After 4 minutes, that's when you start to lose people, and you better be really, really good. I mean, you professional comedians, you know, real professional speakers might be able to carry it a little further, but they can if they're really, really good. But most people are not trained that way, and it's not necessary. You can do it, keep it moving. and you have a timeline. You have people that are set to go, and the band's supposed to hit it this time of night. Let's do it.
Yeah, the food. I mean, all
it.
the other things.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the other things. Now, I do have a wedding. I have a family from Trinidad, and I've done like 6 of their weddings, and they have the same 2 people give the speeches for everybody, regardless of their relationship to. I swear, and
Yeah.
I mean, and these 2 are in competition with each other about who's going to give the better speech, and they do a lot. Like what you're saying is that they interview the couple and what have you, and they're funny. I mean, they are really funny. I mean, the first time it went on for 45 minutes, I was horrified as a planner because I wasn't really listening to what they were saying.
Yeah.
But everybody was having a really good time. Moving forward, I adjusted the timeline to make sure that we had time.
My wife's family. We have a cousin named Nick he's not a professional comedian, but he could have been, and he's just a natural getting up there and saying off the cuff, just running with it, and nobody cares if it goes long except for the caterers. And but that's rare, and if you do have someone like that, you want to put them last. Right, because you want to make sure that you're not scaring the crap out of the people beforehand that are nervous. and
Didn't even think about that.
The other thing I think people need to think about is we get some business out of videographers, because you've spent the money to have a videographer, or if you have, you want to have material that's usable, and make it easy for them to edit and have these shareable moments and going back to the Vows, one of our first clients, their sizzle reel, their 6-minute wedding highlight reel, it was all their vows over music. They read the vows, and that was the narration for the video, and it was so beautiful the way that this videographer put it together. And my wife and I, when we first saw it, we were crying. We're like, this is why we're doing this. This is amazing.
It's almost like the commercials are being written for you, though. That's a funny thing. It's like, this is, post that video and be like, okay, we wrote this for them.
Oh,
Saturday Night Live not sound like them,
Yeah, I don't know if you saw it, but if you've seen it, but Saturday Night Live did a wedding, a maid of honor speech right after we started. That was like one of these maid of honor speeches from hell. It's hysterical fun. It's on. I've embedded it on our website because it's like a 5-minute commercial for why we exist. But but at any rate, it's great fun, and there needs to be a niche out there. At some point, we're going to hit, I hope, between anybody that's doing this or with our business, a point where people just know this help exists. They don't have to be told by the wedding planner. They just know it exists, and that it's normalized, and they don't feel like, oh man, I shouldn't be getting help with this. It's like you're getting help with your hair. You're getting help with your dress. You're getting help with the flowers, right? Why wouldn't you want a little bit of professional oversight on these very important moments that we're just going to help you say it a little better? And once people get aware of it, and once it gets normalized, I think it'll just be a thing that everybody does that isn't a comfortable writer.
And I think that's really the piece here, is that it is a fairly normalized thing. I mean, again, why wouldn't you get help when you need help being able to speak in front of people? Now, you did mention at some point that you help people get past their speaking fear. So do you do a practice session with?
Absolutely. Yeah. Every package we sell has at least one practice session where they read it to us, and then we provide some guidance on how to deliver it better. And that guidance might be, hey, emphasize this word a little more, with a little bit more levity and fun. You're talking about something funny, raise your voice, get excited about it, push it out there. And when you're talking about something very serious or how much you love, put a little bit more heart into it, get a little softer. And that way you're having some of those dynamics that we were talking about earlier, and it's not monotone. People have a reading voice. When you read something out loud, and if you haven't practiced it enough, you have a reading voice, and it's nothing like your conversational voice whatsoever. You would never tell a story that way, right? Nope. So what we try and do is get them to a point where it sounds like they're saying it and not reading it. They don't have to memorize it ever.
Right.
We never, because there's too much pressure on people to do that unless they're
100%.
masters at memorization. But so you have it there, but it's something to refer to, and it's something to that you're going to float through if you've practiced it enough. But we do multiple practice sessions for people that want to drill that down. But every package includes at least one, and that's a big part of it. The writing is really, for some people, it's less important than the practice session.
I was about to say,
because
inflection is everything. I mean, that's the thing, is that, you have to be able to speak and raise your voice and have your voice in a way that has breaks in it, natural breaks in it that people find interesting.
Yeah.
Do you get the monotone person that reads his voice
Of
just
course.
like this and it goes
Yeah,
across
of course,
and
but
right. I mean, what do you
of
do
course,
with
but
that?
it's still going to be, well, you do the best you can. You give them the best advice you can. Not everybody's going to be a dynamic or an actor. Some people just speak that way, and we don't necessarily want to take them and mold them into our image either. I mean, that's them. We do want to make it more entertaining if we can, and we'll give them some guidance. But if that's just the way they speak and we can't move them a little bit, then they'll still have good material, and it'll still come out funny in their way. And I will say, like, one of the other things we run into are people that are like myself. They're criers. Right? There are people that cry when they laugh. They cry when they see a sentimental commercial. They cry. I'm a crier. There's certain movies I can't even watch. Right? Marley and me won't even touch it. Right?
Yep.
So speaking in front of people about something so emotional, particularly for the parents of brides and grooms, we get a lot of that. But the practice session is so critical, because once they've done it 3 or 4 times and they've read it out loud and they've gotten through the words and they've imagined themselves there, it doesn't take all of the emotion out of it, but it does serve as some level of immunity, to losing yourself in the moment and completely falling apart. And so they just get a little bit numb to it, right? And not totally, but enough so that they don't fall apart in front of them. And that's the perfect sweet spot, right? You get that break in their voice, and they're just, that's when the emotions coming through, and
that's my favorite.
And their hands are shaking a little bit, and that's real, that's honest, and that's fine. Like, you don't have to be up there and be a radio announcer. Right.
Well, I've had bridesmaids that got so emotional that somebody else from the audience literally walked up and took the paper out of her hand and started reading her speech. And I was like, good for you.
Which is also another reason why you should have it in large point font, right? Yep. On a piece of paper, so you can see it in the dark. That's another thing. You don't want that. I say everywhere I go, you don't want that uplighting, right, where you get that Halloween effect, but have it on a piece of paper, and that way, if your best man did drink 12 bourbons and completely is shattered and can't even stand up, never mind read, then maybe like one of your other best friends can get up there, hold him up, and read it for him. If nothing else, he's got the piece of paper there, right? We can figure it out. So
that's funny, and people get it, but at least the speech is written. What about microphone etiquette? Because people do not know how to speak into a microphone at a wedding, and they hold it away from them, and you can't hear them.
They hold it down at their waist.
Speak up. Oh, they hold it too close.
And people are
they
like,
hold it down
up.
their waist, or they eat the milk like this, right? And so, I usually tell them to hold it, an inch or so below your mouth, or a couple inches below your mouth, and you want to have your piece of paper maybe towards your belly button, or around your waist, or thereabouts, where you can see it, but not where it's covering your face or covering the photos. I mean, the other reason not to do this on your phone or on a tablet, particularly on your phone, is that you're going to have pictures, and it's going to of the speech, and you're going to have a microphone, and it's going to look like you're looking at your phone. like checking your news or something.
And
So
that's the other thing, and that's what I was going to
yeah.
ask you, because a lot of people put them on their phones, and things happen with your phone. I mean, it goes black, a call comes in, a text come in, and it wipes away whatever you're looking at.
I am
So
I am
printed,
sympathetic. Yeah, I'm sympathetic. I'm attached to my phone as anybody, but one of the problems is that you're going to need to scroll when you have a
Yeah.
phone. So now you've got things happening. You can very easily lose your place. And so by having it on a piece of paper where it's all, where you might have 2 pages or 3 pages, but that's all you have to deal with,
right?
It's much easier. And again, you don't get that lighting. You're not discombobulated scrolling. It's think about what you'd see with a politician here. You wouldn't see them up there with a phone looking at it, right? You'd see them with a piece of paper. That's what people used to say. So,
Marcy,
with the newer trend going towards having welcome cocktails for couples, especially with the younger, with a more of a Gen X, where the couples are having a lot of bridesmaids or groomsmen or people that are speaking for them. A lot of times they're doing the speeches the night before the wedding, and then they're having maybe one person or 2 people, maybe the parents of the couple, or maybe one person doing the speech the day of the event, the actual wedding.
Yeah.
What would you say is the maximum number of speeches that should be done the day of the wedding?
Yay.
Because obviously, I will say that I had my niece, they had like 8 people on each side.
Oh my God.
Yes, they had a lot of people, and they did everything the night before, which was for a more intimate crowd. So there was a little bit of roasting, but then they only had the parents speak at the wedding, which I thought was a really beautiful touch. How many people would you say would be maximum?
Yeah, for a wedding. For
the actual wedding, for the actual wedding, I think 4 or 5 is probably where I'd put it, just because you're going, unless you have somebody guiding them, you're going to have people run over. And you're if you get beyond 25 minutes worth of speeches, you're going to start to lose the crowd, right? I don't care how good they are. I've seen it dispersed where you'll have like 2 and then something will happen, then you have 2 more and something will happen, but it's still a lot of people talking. Especially, you have a 25-minute ceremony. Now you're going to have another 30 minutes of people talking. And if it goes beyond that, it's going to be a lot of talking. So, and so I would limit it to 4 or 5. I know that sometimes people have a family dynamic where, there's a stepfather and a father, or stepmother and a mother, and you want to give equal time, and that's fine. But you could also ask people to shorten it up. I mean, I have had people say, "Hey, look, we're doing a lot of them." Where a planner will come to us and say, "Hey, we're doing more than usual here. We want to, keep it to 2 minutes," and that's fine too. We could do it. We'll make it impactful. It's just, but you got to get everybody to do it that way, or else you're going to run into the same problem. So assume if you're a couple, or you don't even have to tell this to the planners, because planners know this. But but if you're a couple, if you're getting married out there, or you're part of this scene, assume that they're not going to be on time. Assume that they're going to go long, unless you hire somebody to keep them shorter, and or make sure that they know, as some planners do, that we are going to cut you off, that there will be play out music like the Oscars, and you get 2 minutes, and at 2 minutes and 25 seconds, you're off the stage. And I don't care if you're dad, right? You're off. And that's, but that has to be communicated.
Do you have anybody that absolutely says you have to use our writer? There's no other option. We hired a writer to help our wedding party and our parents, and you're using.
I haven't run into that. I mean, I'm the writer that's being hired often and put in that position, but or one of our other writers. But so we haven't run into a scenario like that. I have run into clients that have a vision that you can't really dislodge them from, and it's not always the vision that I would share or put out there, but it's their vision, and so you do run into the occasional client that is dogmatic about saying certain things, and they're not that maybe they're a little risque, or I've had so many people talk. So many grooms want to talk about like butts or boobs or things. Look, man, this is not what I would do.
You're not a 14-year-old. I'm sorry, you're not a 14-year-old anymore. You're not 15-year-olds. We're not going to be talking about people's boobs. We're not going to talk about their butts. We're not going to talk about their bathroom, schedule. We're not.
I appreciate that you've built an empire, but like, and look, you're hiring me. You signed a waiver. I'm good. Like this is your wedding, but my professional recommendation is that we talk about their smile. Or something like that,
Oh my God,
there's got to be another feature.
Oh my God, I mean, you've given us a lot to think about, and a lot of things to like really take into consideration. And I think that people are out there, they're gonna need to hire you. That's all there is to it. They're gonna need to hire you. So if they wanted to find you, how would they find you? I mean, we've been running it on the Chicker Tape below, but if you're listening to the podcast, how would people find you?
Sure, it's very simple. Vows and Speeches spelled out .com. Vows and Speeches. We're also on Instagram, Vows and Speeches. You could look up Brian Franklin and Speeches or Brian Franklin and Vows. You'll find us too that way. There's a whole lot, but Vows and Speeches, we're out there, and thankfully, it should be pretty easy to find us. And if not, contact Keith or Marcy, and I'm sure they can refer you.
Oh no, please! We're totally going to be referring people to you. The other thing is that for your next Instagram page, you need to have Vows and Speeches fails. Have all the ones, all the ones that messed up.
You would get so many stories.
Let me tell you, I've already got like 50 good ones, right? And I'm thinking, there's either a book or there's something there. There's something there that's going to be someday where you compile this stuff because some of these stories are incredible. It's a whole nother podcast. You could just fill it with these.
I know, and that's what I'm saying.
I'd love to hear more.
Oh my God, I'm like, you're a writer. This would be perfect. Oh God, no! I've had people leave people at the rehearsal dinner. I mean, it's been a wild 20 years. Let's just put it that way.
We laugh about it, and with with deep respect to the florists in our lives that are some of which are referring business to us, but like we laugh at like flowers die, but words live forever, right?
They do. They do, and especially now with social media and everybody recording it never goes away. It never goes away. And so I mean, there are still weddings that were 6 years ago, 8 years ago, and people were like, "Oh, you remember this?" And they pull up their phone and I'm like, "Oh yes, thank you, thank you so much." Love.
We just want something to be people to be proud of what they've said, right? Later on, proud of what other people have said, and and it will be shared. It's going. If it's great, it'll be shared. If it's bad, it'll be shared. But it's
gonna be shared.
You got to be careful. It's going to be shared, especially with the younger generations that are sharing pretty much everything. So,
Brian, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
This was a dream. This was a dream, and I'm really excited. I
loved it. Thank you so much, and thanks for having me. Thank you, Marcy and Keith, both of you.
I love it. Okay, so if you want to reach out to Brian Franklin, it's www.vowelsandspeeches.com. Their Instagram is at Vows and Speeches. Very easy to reach out to him. He makes the process easy. Do not feel bad about reaching out for your bridesmaids or your groomsmen if you're needing a little help.
You can do it we could do it confidentially. We can.
Yes, do it a little confidentially. But okay, but for now we're gonna say goodbye. But we'll be back next Tuesday at 2:00. But we'll see you then. Everybody say goodbye.
See you.